Tonight, I wanted to talk a little bit. Thomas kind of set it up in terms of how I'm going to break down the lecture. There's basically going to be two parts. Um, the idea of being under pressure, I think in the 90s and 2000s, there was an obsession with smoothing out differences, both in terms of digital design and architecture culture. Um, Clover and I both come from very different backgrounds, and a lot of at least in our practice, the idea is that the space between our differences is really where the most interesting stuff happens. And that is the pressure of the practice kind of pressing down upon us to produce that. And so, unlike maybe other collaborations which are trying to present themselves as having a uniform ideology, we actually play up the differences between ourselves as an advantage as a practice. It brings different perspectives to how we work. Also, in terms of how we work in Hong Kong, we came here from LA. We're very modeling intensive. We still make prototypes. This is a prototype that we did with DuPont Corian for our storefront in our studio in Hong Kong. We still make all of our models in the studio, do all of our own renderings in the studio, and we're very involved on site. You can see Clover in the upper right-hand corner doing a drawing for a contractor on a wall. On the site. We believe that while architecture still owes tremendously to notation and drawings, there's a lot to be learned from prototyping and modeling. And doing that, nothing beats doing that yourself, or the expertise leaves the practice. And so a lot of the way that we've worked has been to develop esoteric methods of construction and modeling that allow us to do certain things in the projects. And that's why we do these things in-house still and don't kind of ship them out to other firms to make models. We learn as much from those models as anybody else, and so we feel the need to make them. The last project that I'll show is a project that we're doing just north of here. It's in Zhuhai. It also it's in a big landscape, but it's a much more artificial landscape. It's the top of a 55-hectare parking garage. And similarly tries to think about how it can pull in parts of the landscape into the parking garage and knead it into the pavilion. So again, this is the idea that the landscape, light, and air are other media that you're folding into the architecture. As I understand it, this project is the biggest single-phase project in China. At least that's what our client tells us. It is this site in Zhuhai. It is a very conventional housing project. It comprises 46 towers. And the area that we've been asked to work on is the podium. None of what you're seeing here is our design. This is all by other people. But we've been asked to develop a series of pavilions for this podium and that sit within a larger landscape that Chris Counts, who's a landscape architect from New York, designed, as well as think about entries in the interior of the garage. The scale of the project, which is well under construction, is really colossal. For instance, this avenue here is basically you're looking down this lane here, and this is when the buildings are a little bit over halfway built. Now a number of them have topped out. So these are very, very tall buildings. And the idea is that the parking garage, the landscape on top of it, the interior of the parking garage, and these pavilions would develop a cultural space, a space of recreation, and an urban space for the 40,000 plus inhabitants here and the public that will come here to shop in a way that would develop a different relationship with the landscape. There are three basic areas of scope that they asked us to look at: the entries to the parking garage, the columns in the interior of the parking garage, which is again 55 hectares, so it's quite large, and then the pavilions.